Hi, my name's Daryl, and I'm in the middle of a Wrangler towing series. I've done videos just on the basics of towing with the Wrangler. I talked about the Wrangler Rubicon, the 2024, and why sometimes it can tow 5,000 pounds, sometimes it can't. And I also did a video talking specifically about the kind of trailers that you can tow with the Wrangler. But in today's video, I'm going to talk about the hitch ball mount, which is this guy right here, and whether or not you need rise or drop on this hitch ball mount. So let's get started. So this hitch ball mount, it goes into your hitches receiver right here. You need to determine the rise or drop of that hitch ball mount based on the location of your receiver and how high it is compared to the location and height of your trailer's coupler. So let's look at those two measurements. Okay, so before we start measuring, you need to make sure that you find some level ground. So have your Jeep on level ground, also have your trailer on level ground, and then probably grab a leveler and just make sure your trailer is level before you start measuring, because really you want your Jeep and your trailer, when you're going down the road, you want both of those things level. All right, so the thing that we need to measure first is the coupler. And this is what's called the coupler. It's on the trailer. And the coupler basically connects to your tow vehicle or to your hitch through this ball right here. And so your coupler fits, the ball fits inside the coupler, and then it clamps down kind of underneath the ball. And that is how it connects. So we need to measure from the ground to the bottom of the coupler. So when I take that measurement, that is going to be 20¼ inches for my coupler. All right, so the next measurement that we need to take is our receiver. And so we're measuring from the ground to the top, kind of where the opening of the receiver is the important measurement. And when I measure that, I get approximately 19¾ inches. So when we compare that to the measurement of the coupler, which was 20¼ inches, the difference between those two measurements is our rise or drop. So our receiver is lower than the coupler by 1/2 inch. So that means that we need to have a 1/2 inch rise on our coupler. So one thing of note in regards to rise or drop on your hitch ball mount, I've got a stock sport Jeep. So my suspension and how high my Jeep is compared to a Rubicon, you know, I'm at least 1 inch lower than a Rubicon. Now most Jeep owners, they will, you know, put a lift on their Jeep, and they probably got a Rubicon and they probably got 35-inch tires. And so they're going to be much higher than my Jeep is. So most Jeep Wranglers out there are probably going to have, as opposed to a rise like I need on my Jeep, they're probably going to have a drop. But it just, you know, it depends on what you've done with your Jeep. Now the other thing that you need to take into consideration is something called Jeep squat. So when you have a lot of cargo in your Jeep, or if you have a trailer on your Jeep with a large tongue weight, your back end of your Jeep is going to drop a little bit. Now I've got a trailer that has a tongue weight of about 225, 230 pounds, and my Jeep drops about 1 inch. You know, I've seen Jeeps drop anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches to even 3 inches. And so if you do have a relatively large trailer with a more tongue weight, let's say maybe you have something with 325 pounds, your Jeep is probably going to squat, you know, 2 to 2.5 inches. Now, there are some things that you can get. You can get a weight distributing hitch, which helps with that. But let's say if you just go with that, you're going to have to account for that drop in the suspension when you're trying to determine whether you want something with more rise or more drop. So I figured I need 1/2 inch of rise on my hitch ball mounts. And my Jeep is actually going to drop a 1 inch. So then I would just figure I would need a 1.5 inch rise on my hitch ball mount to account for the difference between the receiver and the coupler, and also the suspension drop that my Jeep's going to have. Now, depending on the amount of rise or drop that you need in your hitch ball mount, you're probably not going to get things absolutely perfect. So for instance, I wanted to have an 1.5 inch rise. Most of the times you're going to find anywhere between a 1 inch rise or a 2 inch rise. You might get lucky at 5'1" with an 1.5 inches, but you know, if you've got like 2 3/4 or something like that of drop that you're going to need, you're probably going to have to go between 2 or 3 inches. Now, it's best to err if you are not going to be riding perfectly level. It's best to err for that hitch ball to be a little bit lower as opposed to being a little bit higher. And the reason for that is you really want the coupler or the tongue of the trailer, if anything, if you can't get it perfectly level, you want to have it riding a little bit lower as opposed to having that coupler or the tongue of the trailer riding a little bit higher. It's going to basically just ride a lot better on the road with that tongue down as opposed to the tongue up. So I did talk about Wrangler owners putting lifts on their Jeep and also putting larger tires on their Jeep. And I also talked about the fact that you have this spare tire in the way, and so you need a hitch ball mount with a larger shank, like this one. So one of the things you might want to consider as opposed to a fixed hitch ball mount, get something like this that's adjustable. So this one has like 1 inch holes so that you can adjust the height of the hitch ball mount by 1 inch. This one is flexible enough to do, let's see, I think a 5 1/4 inch rise or a 6 3/4 inch drop. So you can move it around quite a bit. And this one also has either an 11 or 12 inch shank. And so when I put this into my receiver of my Jeep Wrangler, you can see how much space that I have from the spare tire. And so, yeah, I really like this. It cost me like 90 bucks on Amazon, and it's made by Curt, so they make a lot of really good towing products. This one is rated for, I think, 6,000 pounds. So it's a class 3 hitch ball mount, and so it'll certainly serve your needs for a Jeep Wrangler. Now, it doesn't actually come with the ball, so you have to purchase the ball separately. And I actually just took it to U-Haul and had them install the ball for me because I didn't have the necessary tools for this big old huge bolt right here. So I just had them install it for me. So that worked out really good. So I will have a link to this product in the video's description. And in my next video on towing with the Wrangler series, I'm going to talk about hitching up for the first time. So the first time I hitched up, I was really nervous about it. I watched videos about it, but still, just that first time, you know, it has a lot of anxiety associated with it. So I'm going to have some checklists for you and also demonstrate as best as I can. So hopefully that'll ease your anxiety a little bit if you're a first-time tower. And I hope to see you in that video very soon.